into the conversation. If you've been following the news, my name is Ifeemi Andrew, by the way, you would have noticed that Labour had a protest in Imo State, and it turned out not too fine. And the reason for that protest is huge. I have a statement from the Assistant Secretary General of the NLC, and he's going to join us on the show this morning as well for a very quick conversation to get an idea of what the situation is in Imo State and the postponed meeting between the federal government and Labour following the agreement that was entered into leading to the suspension of that indefinite strike, and talks that, well, those demands, there's been no level of implementation. Yesterday, I got pictures from the NLC showing the Joe Ajaero, the national president of the NLC, bruises on his face and swollen eyes, and the police have, on its own part, dropped a statement concerning that, saying we were trying to secure him. And that has also generated quite a lot of reaction. We were trying to secure him. In Imo State, there's been plenty of talks about workers' salaries being owed and other entitlements to workers that are not being taken care of, leading to some of the demands that Labour is making and the plans to shut down Imo State completely, except for the airlines. I think for the airports, there was a time span for which airports are allowed to operate, and then they will be shut down. And that was what the protest is all about in Imo State by the NLC. Now, when you look at that and the talks of Labour that it was going to go into an indefinite strike after a month given to the federal government to implement, if not all, but a major part of its demands that led to the suspension of the strike initially, that also brings us to question a few things. Because as it stands, the provincial wage increment that the federal government was supposed to implement has still not been implemented. And the process is still ongoing. That's what the government would say. Will that work for federal workers? And even for the federal workers, MDAs might not get paid. We don't know yet because that's not been confirmed. But if you follow the headlines on some of the papers, MDAs, workers there might not get paid. And for the state level, we don't have any idea what's going to happen. At the local level, for local government workers, will that provisional wage adjustment also be implemented? We don't know. But my major question is, on Facebook, when you look at how the government is approaching this, what would you describe the situation to be? Hopeful, hopeless, political? Let us know after the break.
You are tuned in to
Nigeria Info.
We'll be right back after this.
guess it's practically almost impossible because we know that the unions are supposed to have a protest and meetings today. And that's where we are. But we'll keep trying. In the meantime, here is a statement that came to me from Labour. I'll just read out parts of those statements to you. Now, it was one statement that handled the issues with the federal government with regards to the implementation of the demands that were made by Labour that led to the suspension of that indefinite strike that was supposed to begin after the October 1 Independence Day celebration. Okay, so let's listen to this. Labour says it has become very important once again that we register our strong disappointment with recent utterances and actions as it concerns one of the most critical issues contained in the October 2 agreement reached between Labour and the federal government. And it says you're advised to a group that was clearly sponsored by state and by the police to contrive a crisis in the NURTW to forcefully seek to hijack leadership of the union to go ahead and hold delegates conferences in defiance of the constitution of the union and good conscience is most unfortunate and a recipe for national industrial crisis. In other words, Labour is saying the government is seeking to use some internal political maneuver to have their own stooges or their own cronies in places of position or authority within the unions so that they can be having meetings with those people, and well, you know what the rest would be. That's what Labour is suggesting in this statement. And I just take a part of it that says NLC does not want to see this as a deliberate plan to sabotage the October 2 agreement. The position of the Attorney General of the Federation and your office represents the key ministries in Nigeria where its occupants are expected to be very professional in their judgments and completely unbiased in taking decisions, as it has deep implications for the health of the nation's workplaces and economy. It requires a height of candor and mien that would be brought to bear to protect the nation from unnecessary crisis and social dislocations. All right, so that's part of it. I can't take all of it because it's really lengthy. Of course, they went on to say that we are not unmindful of the fact that you may not have possessed the whatever. But NLC had looked forward to having a robust government with you at the helms of affairs in the ministry, but your actions have completely made us lose trust and confidence in your ability to deliver justice and fair play, which is required at all times by the social partners if we are to make progress within the nation's workplace. There you have, that's one signed by Comrade Joe Ajaero, the president of the NLC. Now, in Imo State as well, a recent press release that came out following what happened. I'd also read that one for us to listen and then tell us why they're protesting in Imo State. Workers have been on pension, salaries for years, pension arrears, gratuities. The list goes on and on. But first, after what has happened, it says that policemen had tried to disperse workers who were gathering at the state NLC secretariat without success. Now, this was followed in the usual manner by thugs who were stationed very close to the secretariat in several Hiluxes and Toyota trucks. This is mind-boggling and unacceptable. The use of violence against innocent citizens, especially against trade union leaders by the state, has unfortunately become the norm. It is a new normal that may cause our nation dearly if people are allowed to get away with such violent acts. Once again, we call on the police to immediately release the President of Congress without further delay. Now, this was what happened yesterday in Imo State. Now, some of the reasons why they are protesting, I was trying to highlight a few of them in Imo State. I'll just touch on a few of them before we get to the phone lines and get your response to it. So it says, every necessary step has been taken to ensure the effective of this action for the liberation of workers in Imo State. We have been held captive, intimidated, and grossly violated by a government that ought to protect us. Workers in the state, led by the NLC state chairman and his executive, including various industrial unions, are fully mobilized. The TUC has also mobilized its members across the state to ensure that the action compels the state government to begin to respect the rights of workers to decent work and healthy living. The NLC once again advises members of the public to disregard any contrary information disseminated by agents of state government. As a result of the industrial action, there will be a total shutdown of activities in Imo State. This action is a demonstration of the NLC's strong outrage and determination to bring about positive change for workers of Imo State. Now, for the avoidance of doubt, national leadership of both NLC and TUC are already in Owerri, and they're supposed to begin like they did yesterday. So workers have been owed salaries for years, gratuities, pensioners for years on. They're not being paid their monthly pension. It's not just... So there's a lot around workers and their entitlements that they do not get in Imo State, which is almost like, okay, we've had enough. That is what the situation is. And remember, it's not just Imo State. Similar issues were even raised in Abia State, workers being owed as well before, under the previous administrations. Whether this current administration is working towards correcting those anomalies is what we will wait to find out. But the NLC president being assaulted, detained, and the latest information says has been released. But in the first place, why would it have gotten to the level that it got to? Even if there are some other corners from the government saying that there's an injunction stopping them from going ahead with the protest and all of that. Well, does it still warrant what we have seen, especially when the employer, in this case, is said to not be meeting up with his own end of the bargain? And so you've heard both sides. The NLC's position to the federal government as against the October 1 agreement and the situation in Imo State. Now, my question for you, and I need you to respond to this, of course, with all honesty, is the government says at the federal level it is working. Fair, CASAT, approvals have been given. Now, this was a meeting you entered with Labour, had an agreement that within 1 month, this is what you would be doing. But as it stands, it's, if not a month now, it's a month now, and we still haven't seen anything from that agreement implemented, at least from my last conversation with the TUC chairman in the state. Unfortunately, the NLC National Assistant Secretary General would not be able to join us at the moment. We'll still keep trying. If we get him, then fine. But until that time, when you see how this has played out, December is around the corner. This is November. The implementation of that wage adjustment was supposed to be for provisional wage adjustment was supposed to be implemented from October, counting down. This is already November. We don't even know where state governments are with this. We don't even know where local governments are with this. Does this then mean that we are not going to even see the fruition of these demands anytime soon? How do you describe the federal government's approach to the demands of labor after a month now? Are we going to see an indefinite strike action if one is called for? Because Labour had said after a month, if we do not see these things, anything tangible on the ground, this is what's happening next. At that time, we are not going to hold back on any indefinite strike action. There are people who think it's a waste of time. We already have the festive periods around the corner. What would be the point? It's going to be easy for the government to have a reason why Labour should call off or suspend whatever indefinite strike it might want to embark on, because that will put Nigerians in further pains compared to what they are now with the festive season just around the corner. So what would you describe this approach by government? Many said subsidy is gone, was implemented almost as swiftly as it was said. But now, agreements have been entered into. Remember, there's a process. Some people say it's the government trying to buy time using the process. Some others think, well, if we must do this, it has to be done rightly. It requires a lot to get this done. But isn't that what was supposed to be required if we were removing subsidy? Shouldn't proper planning and time be taken to do it as well? Let us know on Facebook at Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. How do you describe the federal government's approach? And what do you make of the assault on the NLC president in Imo State? The police has come out to say we were trying to protect him from being lynched by who? Members of the NLC he was protesting with? Well, this is where we are. 0817 923 0003 0817 923 0003. You can also call 0817 923 0007. Odima is in Iwofe. Good morning to you, Odima.
Andrew, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, go on.
Andrew, for me, as far as I'm concerned, this government, in fact, UPT government 2015, You remember since they took over power, they have disorganized labor. They don't respect labor. They don't respect Nigerians. This government is not different from the former government. They know that Nigerians are paying. They have captured Nigerians. Nigeria has been captured by APC and their leaders. Look at the supplementary budget the president just sent to Senate. Does that show any concern about the feelings of Nigerians? This labor will not do anything. If the labor do too much, it will disorganize the former government did. Except Nigerians who live prayer, they will leave church houses. They will leave prayer and take their destinies in their hands. Labor will not do nothing. Labor can do nothing. Look at Robo Zadema for information. Robo Zadema will win the election because Mahmoud is still the INEC chairman because Robo Zadema knows that he doesn't need the people. So Mahmoud is still the chairman of INEC. So he doesn't need the people. And people are sleeping, waiting. They are praying. We are praying until.
Odima, you'd have to call back, or perhaps you got interrupted somehow. Blessed Inalu, good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother in the studio.
You're welcome.
The brutality NLC president, Ajeru in Imo State, my brother, let me tell you one thing pertaining that brutality. That man needs to respect himself. You know, this is the time of election, and then November 11 is the gubernatorial election in Imo State. And besides, you know that the Labour Party have a candidate to go to contest for this particular election. Why did you go on board for you to go and protest? Why can't you protest for now? It's when the election is approaching for you to go and protest, and they say it's brutality. You have to question yourself for this bad attitude that is presented for before the Imo State government. And besides, what happened that the people that advised him to go on board and protest, they did not give him a good advice. Get me? What of that yesterday? People that were attacking, either you don't know those people, either mob or whoever may concern. Police say they are protecting him for him not to be doing one thing or the other. If the man passed away yesterday, I think the other person will take over as a Labour president in Nigeria. So that's my own concern. Thank you very much for my All
right, thank you very much, Blessed. Now, I would like to take our mind back to a few things, especially as it regards Imo State workers and what they're going through. We have Daniel and Chima on the line. The Imo State workers, local government workers, let me just start with local government workers. Imo State local government workers had protested before because they are being owed almost 31 months unpaid salaries. 31 months. I'd say that again. 31 months unpaid salaries. If you go to the Leadership newspaper, you'd find the details where members of the local government councils in the state concluded the plans to stage a protest in the first week of December because of non-payment of their salaries for 31 months. So the governor himself had even apologized to workers in Imo State over non-payment of salaries and pension. This was in May this year. I'm not talking about something too far. It was during the Workers' Day celebration. And he came out and apologized to workers and retirees in the state over unpaid salaries, pensions, and gratuities. He said the delay was a result of automation and biodata capturing of pensioners when he started, the government started under his administration, and said his administration was going to do the right things to make sure workers are happy. Let me quote part of what he said. Payment of salaries, pensions, and gratuities were delayed. This is due to the biodata capturing automation, which has to be done if the state must grow. For the inconvenience, I apologize to Imo workers. It might amaze you to know that we have a debt portfolio of over 169 billion naira unpaid gratuities and pensions in Imo State, way back from 2007. 2007. I needed us to hear that. For pensions and gratuities from 2007. Most of these people would have even died. He said they've commenced payment of over 169 billion to Imo retirees whose pensions and gratuities have been delayed. And he also went on to say a couple of other things. Well, all of the statements, I can't go to all the details. But then fast forward to now, why are the workers still saying we have still not been paid? Daniel in Transamadi, good morning.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
For me, I think it is two business partners fighting each other.
Hello, Daniel.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
I said I think it's two business partners fighting each other. Because labor over the years that represent the masses have failed, if you ask me. Subsidy is gone. That is the time Nigeria wanted them to react. They have a lot called a strike or protest, people will join you. They have a lot of loss in terms of trust towards Nigerians. You want to trust the government of Nigeria over the years have shown they can't be trusted. They have promises and they have failed. That is Nigerian government.
Daniel, you call back. Chima is another George. Let's get to Chima quickly. Hello, Chima. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew.
Welcome. Talk to us.
Andrew, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Andrew, I think Nigerians, we should for once tell ourselves the truth. There is no rule of law in this country. And if somebody is trying to talk about because of election, what is the main essence of election? Is it not when a person is being elected, you serve the interest of the people? And the current governor is owing such amount of money, and somebody is talking about you at zero, right, to dissolve election. Why wouldn't the governor pay offset all the salaries prior before this time? We're trying to attribute everything into nothing because of the way Nigerians are reasoning. That is why so many things are going on. Nigerians are not saying anything. Even the former governor of Rivers said, speak about the how Nigeria keep quiet for everything. Just because a man came out to demand that the right to be done. Workers are not being paid salary and the government is going about campaigning. What is he telling what is he campaigning for? What is he telling the people? You understand? When you cannot be able to fulfill the promise that you have made for the previous campaign and you want to come back again as a governor and put you keep quiet. Oh God.
God's power from Obirikwere. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you, God's power.
Yeah, I don't know the kind of country we are. You see, I know I'm a citizen of this country, but I think I have to describe this country as a banana republic. Because what is the governor telling us? Governor of Imo State, what is he telling us? Or what is the police? What is the press statement that police has released? That police has no hand in the molestation of the NLC president. So who is responsible to it? Is it the level that the man came to also protest with? If you watch television, you will see the bruises on this man's face. We are protesting of a salary and gratuity that have not been paid to workers. And so I had somebody saying that during the election, which election? That election that you are constructing to bring somebody that will also begin to do the same thing that you are doing. It is very unfortunate in this country. Very, very unfortunate. So I think the president needs to hear this and will not be quiet about it. In fact, I think the entire civil society and the NLC should stand up in Imo State and besiege that Imo State government house because of the molestation that they gave to the NLC president. Okay, now the country, the federal government has promised that December that our refineries will work. What sign has it showed that December is by the corner? December is by the corner. So what indication that these refineries will work? It is a country that where illegality is made legal in this place.
All right, God's power. Thank you very much. If you recall, the Imo State government had even gone on to increase workers' salaries to 40,000 naira. You remember that? 40,000 naira minimum wage, as against what the federal government had approved at the time with Labour, which was 30,000, if I'm not mistaken. Now, was that even paid? According to the report from Budget, Imo State was among the states owing at least 6 months' salaries upward. at least. And of course, the state government at the time, through its commissioner for, I think, information, had come out to say budget should not mislead people. But then I'm saying, if you say budget shouldn't mislead people, we had the governor himself apologizing for owing workers' salaries. Apologizing on Workers' Day this year for owing workers' salaries. And the workers had said even the 40,000 naira minimum wage, it was just on paper, an announcement the government made. We have not been paid. This was workers who were complaining that there's no increment in their salaries as promised. There's nothing. And they were saying this to this was NLC speaking with a representative of the government, because he had increased to 40,000 after the government said 30,000. And everybody loved it and applauded the government for it. But then workers said that was not implemented. Barake is on the line. He's calling from D-Line. Good morning to you.
Yes, I want to speak on the issue of what is going on at D-Line. The Imo State now for the owing of the worker salary.
Yeah.
Yes. My reason for calling is because those who are now criticizing the governor of Imo State are the same people who applauded the former governor of Rivers State, Onyeka, when he assumed office as a governor, and they lay embargo on civil servants' promotion in Rivers State. The same people who are condemning Imo State governor now clapped around for him, and he stayed for 8 good years without promoting civil servants in Rivers State. Neither did he pay the minimum wage that was approved, generally unanimously approved by the president, to be paid to civil servants in all over the entire federation. The River State civil servants were mortgaged, we are caged, we are barricaded, denied those amenities. Number 2, the retirees, their pensions and gratuities. The gratuities, they are still suffering, begging for their money. That the governor, the former governor, was enjoying himself. Today, the same former governor is working against the current governor of the similarly, Fubara, and the people are still clapping hands for him. Those who work at Abuja calling themselves Rivers elders are not Rivers elders. They are not representing as a Rivers man. They are there representing PDP, so they cannot speak of us. I have the right as a Rivers man to condemn what wicked is doing to similarly Fubara, which he could not allow anybody to do to him. So they should stop blaming the Imo State governor. Wicked did worse than what the Imo State governor is doing now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Babake. Let's see some of the messages on Facebook before we wrap. On Facebook, it says Imo State government is becoming a dictator. Imo State governor is becoming a dictator. What is all this happening? Another one says Labour leaders are also part of the problem in this country. I thought NLC and TUC are dead, buried, and rotten since after under the good luck time. Another message says NLC under the current leadership of Joe Ajaero has never been serious. He's easily influenced by government, and that is why they will never obey any agreement reached with Labour. Okay, I really wish we had my guest, Chris Onyeka. We would definitely keep trying. Perhaps if we don't get him today, we'll get them tomorrow next. But we are going to have this conversation and hear from Labour directly, because there were certain things that were raised the last time I spoke with them, and I said this: the government, you are going to agree this with the government. It will not be the first time you are agreeing things that the government did not do. What makes you think this one would be different? They gave their reasons, and we would only know from them whether those reasons are still obtainable now. The police claimed they rescued the NLC president from being lynched. How come he was blindfolded and beaten up, as was reported over television? Was it police that blindfolded and beat him up? The police said they did not. Their men were trying to rescue him and not hurt him. That was what the statement of the police said, even if many would say we saw otherwise on social media. But that's the official police statement. And that is what it is. We have to draw the curtain now. We'll go for a commercial afterwards. We have Hello Port Harcourt next. My name is Ifeemi Andrew. Thank you for your time, and good morning to you.
When you're a 9 mobile, Nigeria